minutes, Fred. Did you see our new anchorman?
No, he's probably still down in makeup. You know how these new personality news guys are. Probably coming in and try to take over the whole show.
Oh, I don't think so. He seems like a nice, quiet, humble sort of guy.
Hi, Guy. What time do I go on?
What time do you go on? We go on in 5 seconds. You better get ready.
Oh. Good evening. In Moscow, it's 9 o'clock. In London, it's 1 o'clock. And in Washington, it's later than they think. This is Harry Catcher.
And Fred Torrey.
Bringing you
the Catcher-Torrey Report.
At the top of the news, Mr. Charles Yates of this city was attacked by muggers last night who chased him around the block, beat him with their fists, bounced him off a brick wall, and threw him off a 600-foot cliff. Yates is reported in serious condition. However, the muggers all died of exhaustion.
On the human interest side...
On the human interest side, local bakery owner, Grandma Yerkes, celebrated a milestone today when her 1 millionth pie came out of the oven. Asked how she felt, Grandma replied, "Great. Now, if I can only sell them."
Now, friends, on the crime front...
On the crime front, the Carlisle National Bank was robbed this morning of all its assets. 42 toasters, 18 blenders, and 300 ballpoint pens. Oh, yes, now to Fred Torrey for this important item.
Dateline, Malibu. High tide will be at 12:15 this morning.
Thank you, Fred, for that in-depth report. In Cleveland...
It's my turn, Joe.
Oh, sorry about that.
In Cleveland this morning, a 3-year-old child fell from an 8th-floor window of an apartment house, but miraculously was caught in the arms of a passing neighbor who was falling from the 9th floor. And now, friends, some disappointing news from Oklahoma. That new oil field that was discovered last week won't solve our fuel shortage after all. As predicted, the field produces 4,000 barrels a day. Unfortunately, the barrels are empty. 48 years ago, Charlie Walker, then an infant, was abandoned on a doorstep on the south side of Chicago. Yesterday, Charlie Walker, now a grown man, was arrested for vagrancy. He was still on the doorstep. And now, friends, we have a hero in the news. During this morning's rush hour traffic, Mr. G.G. Gittleman threw himself in front of an oncoming truck just in time to save his 9-year-old Pontiac.
Brave but dumb.
And now, with temperatures from around the country, here's our anchorman.
Now, with temperatures from around the country, Des Moines, Iowa, Mrs. Claire Simpson has a temperature of 102. In other medical news, Dr. Waldo Trunk, after many years of experimenting with live mice, has discovered a cure for baldness. Dr. Trunk is giving up his practice on humans after receiving thousands of inquiries from bald mice all over the country. Now, for our report from across the tracks, here is your Across the Tracks reporter, Stafford Cripps.
Stafford Cripps here, friends, with reviews of the news from across the tracks. At Mom's Barbecue Palace last night, masked bandits held up the weekly backroom crap game, escaping with over $200,000 in IOUs. Here's a heartwarming item. The Humanitarian of the Year award was presented last night to Alma Granny Morgan, who for the past 50 years has been taking in worthless drunks, feeding them, clothing them, and teaching them a trade, before returning them to society, where they become useful drunks. Good work, Granny. By the way, friends, runner-up for that honor was Scotty Clark, who spent his whole life rounding up poor little stray cats. Scotty Clark is a dog.
Reports that Chinese had exploded an atomic bomb have proven to be a hoax, brought on by the Peking government for propaganda purposes. The stunt was accomplished by having 500 million Chinese yell, "Bang!" On the domestic scene, the president has announced that in order to fight inflation, he intends to whip profiteers into line. Immediately following the announcement, the price of whips went up 20%. Last week in Richmond, California, police raided the local movie house showing The Last Tango in Paris. They confiscated the film and closed down the theater. This morning, Vice Squad officers closed down the Richmond police station. Recall last year that Mrs. Amy Donahue donated her entire $20 million fortune to build a home for the indigent? Well, yesterday, the new poorhouse was finally completed, and Mrs. Donahue moved right in. Now, from Boulder, Colorado comes word that little Thomas Stevens, who'd been lost in a mountain cave for 6 days, was finally found by a search and rescue team which had been lost for 14 days. And now for the up-to-the-minute sports news, here's Lippy Leroy.
Lippy Leroy hears sports fans calling them as I would like to have seen them. From state prison comes word that former track star and convicted murderer Legs Bannister set a new prison record while on the way to the electric chair by running the last mile in 3:53. Friends, truly the mark of a champion and an illustration of that never say die attitude. Right? And now for a quick rundown of the baseball scores. 8-4, 12-9, and 5-3. And in a real close one, 2-1. Which leaves them only 3.5 games out of first place. And now here's Harry Catcher with tonight's editorial.
One of the most troublesome and dangerous trends recently has been the ever-increasing incidence of buck passing, so prevalent in government industry in our everyday lives. Now, it's high time that we and our leaders showed a little guts and accepted full responsibility for our actions, statements, and beliefs.
The preceding was an editorial comment and does not reflect the views of this station, its management, the sponsors, or viewers. Either the technical crew, the reporter, or the guy holding the cue cards. Friends, that's the news for tonight.
And remember, this weekend, be sure to exercise your rights as an American and worship the anchorman of your choice.